Chapter 1: The Arrival. Laura Diggs brushed the sand from her face as the jeep jolted over the uneven terrain of the Egyptian desert. The sun hung low in the sky, a fierce orange orb slowly sinking towards the horizon. Despite the heat and the long journey from Cairo, excitement coursed through her veins. This was it, the opportunity of a lifetime. She was about to lead her first major archaeological dig, and not just at any site, but at one that could potentially redefine ancient Egyptian history. The jeep came to a stop at the base camp, a makeshift setup of tents and equipment sprawled across the sand. Laura stepped out, her boots sinking slightly into the warm, fine grains. She took a moment to survey her new home. The large central tent served as both the meeting room and the dining area, flanked by smaller tents for sleeping and storage. Beyond the encampment, the vast desert stretched endlessly, a testament to both the isolation and the mystery of their location. As she approached the camp, her team greeted her with a mix of enthusiasm and wariness. They were a diverse group, drawn from various corners of the globe, each expert in their respective fields. Laura knew that her leadership would be tested, not just by the challenges of the dig, but also in managing such a varied team. "Dr. Diggs, welcome. We were starting to think you'd been swallowed up by the desert," joked Amir, the dig site manager. His warm smile and firm handshake were reassuring. "Thanks, Amir. It's good to finally be here," Laura replied, returning his smile. "I hope everything is prepared. We have no time to lose." Amir nodded, his expression turning serious. "Yes, Dr. Diggs. The team has already set up the preliminary survey equipment, and we've marked out the initial areas for excavation based on the satellite imagery." "Excellent. I'll want a full briefing after I've settled in. It's crucial we start the ground-penetrating radar first thing tomorrow," said Laura, her mind already racing with the logistical challenges ahead. As she walked through the camp, her gaze was drawn to a figure standing slightly apart from the rest. He was leaning against a jeep, watching her with an intensity that bordered on disconcerting. He was tall, with the lean build of someone used to living in harsh conditions, and his face was shadowed by the brim of his hat. "That's Sam Carter," Amir whispered, following her gaze. "He's the one who insisted on joining the team at the last minute. Says he's been studying this area for years." Laura's interest piqued. She had heard of Carter, of course. Who in the archaeological community hadn't? Brilliant but notoriously competitive, his reputation was a complex tapestry of genius and stubbornness. "I see. I suppose I'll have to officially meet him then," she said, her voice betraying a hint of reluctance. Before that meeting could happen, Laura was swept into the whirlwind of setting up her own tent and unpacking her gear. As she organized her space, her thoughts drifted to the tomb they were here to uncover. Legend had it that it was the final resting place of a lesser-known pharaoh whose reign was shrouded in mystery. If the rumors about the tomb were true, it could contain artifacts and knowledge that would change their understanding of the entire dynastic period. Later that evening, after a brief meal of local bread and stew, Laura found herself sitting across from Sam Carter at the briefing. His gaze was unnerving, but his voice was smooth and confident as he spoke about the terrain and the potential challenges they might face. "As you know, the desert doesn't give up her secrets easily," he said, locking eyes with her. "The sand shifts, hides things from us. But I believe that what we're looking for is here. And I have a few ideas about where to start." Laura listened, her initial wariness slowly giving way to a grudging respect. He was knowledgeable, certainly, and his ideas were sound. It was clear he was as passionate about their work as she was, even if his methods might be more unorthodox. The meeting ended with a clear plan for the next day. Laura lay in her tent, the fabric rustling softly in the night wind. Sleep was elusive, her mind buzzed with anticipation and anxiety. This dig could cement her career. Or it could break it. Only time would tell. Outside, the desert lay quiet under the blanket of stars, indifferent to the hopes and fears of the tiny group of humans nestled in its vastness. But beneath the sand, history waited, patient and still, for Laura and her team to uncover its secrets. Chapter 2: First Discoveries. Laura Diggs woke before dawn, her body attuned to the anticipation of the day's potential discoveries. As she stepped out of her tent, the first rays of sunlight pierced the horizon, casting a golden glow over the desert landscape. The camp was quiet, save for the distant clatter of breakfast preparations in the central tent. Today, they would initiate the ground-penetrating radar (GPR) scans, an essential first step in locating the buried structures that satellite imagery had hinted at. The possibility that they might soon touch history, hidden for millennia, fueled Laura's resolve. She met her team at the designated survey area, a flat expanse of sand marked by small flags indicating the points of interest. The air buzzed with a mix of tension and excitement as they set up the equipment. Sam Carter was already there, double-checking the GPR settings with a mirror. "Good morning, Dr. Diggs," Sam greeted her, his eyes bright under the brim of his hat. "Ready to find our pharaoh?" Laura nodded, her focus sharp. "Let's get started. Time to see what secrets are hiding under our feet." The GPR unit was wheeled over the sand slowly, methodically, as the team watched the monitor closely. The radar emitted waves that penetrated the ground and bounced back, creating a profile of the subsurface layers. Minutes ticked by without incident, the screen displaying only the expected geological layers, until a sudden blip caused Laura to lean in closer. "There! Stop," she commanded. The operator halted the equipment, and everyone crowded around the screen. A clear, anomalous shape suggested the presence of a man-made structure beneath the sand. "It looks like a chamber," Laura said, her voice a mix of awe and excitement. "This could be it." Sam peered over her shoulder. "It's the right size, and at the right depth. We might be onto something big here." With the potential discovery pinpointed, the next step was to excavate. Laura organized the team into shifts. They would need to move tons of sand carefully to avoid damaging anything beneath. As the sun climbed higher, the desert heat intensified, but so did their efforts. By midday, the outline of what appeared to be a stone entrance emerged from the sand. The team used brushes and smaller tools to gently clear away the remaining grains, revealing a doorway that had been sealed off with stones. "We need to document everything before we move any of these stones," Laura instructed, her heart pounding with the thrill of discovery. Cameras clicked and drones buzzed overhead, capturing images from every angle. The physical labor was grueling, but the atmosphere was electric with the prospect of entering an untouched tomb. As they removed the last of the ceiling stones, a gust of cool air emanated from the opening, carrying with it the musty scent of ancient secrets. "Lights," Laura called out, and someone handed her a flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness inside, illuminating a narrow passage that led deeper into the earth. The walls were lined with carvings and hieroglyphs, beautifully preserved and untouched by time. "This is incredible," whispered one of the team members. "Look at the artistry." Laura led the way, her flashlight sweeping over the figures and symbols that told stories long forgotten. They carefully navigated the passage, which opened into a larger chamber. The flashlight revealed the chamber in parts, first the ceiling, intricately decorated with astronomical symbols, then the walls, lined with statues of deities and pharaohs, and finally, the center of the chamber, where a stone sarcophagus lay. The sight of the sarcophagus made Laura stop in her tracks. "We found it," she breathed, almost unable to believe they were standing in a pharaoh's burial chamber. The implications of their find were enormous, not just for her career, but for the history of ancient Egypt. Sam stepped beside her, his face lit by the glow of his own flashlight. "You were right to push for this location, Laura. This is a find of a lifetime." Laura nodded, her eyes scanning the chamber. "We'll need to proceed with extreme caution." Everything in here is invaluable. The rest of the day was spent setting up a more permanent lighting system and planning the detailed cataloging and preservation efforts that would follow. As dusk fell over the desert, the team returned to camp, physically exhausted but mentally exhilarated. That night, as Laura recorded her notes, the weight of their discovery settled on her shoulders. They had uncovered a chapter of history, and it was her responsibility to ensure it was told correctly. Outside, the desert was silent under the stars, but inside Laura's tent, there was no silence, only the whisper of ancient voices, eager to tell their stories after thousands of years of silence. Chapter 3: The Rival. Laura Diggs sat across from Sam Carter at the small folding table set up outside her tent, the light from a solitary lantern flickering between them. The night was clear, the stars a vivid tapestry above the quiet desert. They were reviewing the day's findings, but Laura's mind was elsewhere. She couldn't shake off the feeling that Sam's intentions might not be as aligned with hers as she had hoped. "Sam, your insights today were invaluable," Laura began, trying to keep the conversation neutral yet probing. "I'm curious, though. Your sudden interest in joining this dig, was it purely professional, or is there something else driving it?" Sam met her gaze, his expression unreadable in the dim light. "Laura, let's be honest. We both know this site could be a career maker. I won't pretend I'm not aware of that. But I'm here to help. I've studied this area for years. My knowledge could make a difference." Laura nodded slowly, appreciating his candor but still wary. "I appreciate that, Sam, but I need to know I can trust you. This isn't just about making careers, it's about doing right by history." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Amir, who came bearing a new set of GPR images. "Dr. Diggs, you'll want to see this. We might have another chamber." As they pored over the images, Laura felt a surge of excitement tempered by caution. Another chamber could mean more artifacts, more history unveiled, but also more opportunities for things to go wrong. Over the next few days, the team expanded the excavation site. The new chamber, deeper and more ornate than the first, hinted at the possibility that they were on the brink of an unprecedented archaeological discovery. Laura noticed an increasing number of private calls Sam was taking, often stepping away from the group, his conversations shrouded in secrecy. One evening, as Laura was returning to her tent, she overheard a fragment of Sam's conversation. "Yes, it's more than we expected." "No, I haven't told Laura yet." Alarmed, Laura confronted him the next morning. "Sam, are we keeping secrets now? If there's something about the site that you found out, I need to know." Sam looked genuinely surprised at her confrontational tone. "Laura, I assure you, there are no secrets. I have personal matters to attend to as well. Not everything is about the dig." Despite his reassurances, Laura's trust in Sam wavered. The dynamic within the camp shifted, with whisperings among the team about the tension between their leaders. Laura needed to maintain her authority and credibility, not just for her sake, but for the integrity of the dig. The discovery of a rare artifact one afternoon brought matters to a head. A small, exquisitely crafted statue of Anubis was unearthed, its detail remarkably preserved. The team gathered around, marveling at the find, except for Sam, who seemed distracted, almost displeased. "That should go straight to the lab tent," Laura announced, aware of Sam's gaze on her. "We need to document and preserve it immediately." "Actually," Sam interjected, "I think we should consider sending it to Cairo right away. It needs more advanced conservation techniques than what we can provide here." His suggestion sparked a heated debate. Laura was adamant about keeping the find on-site for preliminary studies, while Sam argued for its immediate transfer to ensure its preservation. The team looked on, caught between their loyalties to Laura and the respect some held for Sam's experience. In the end, Laura's decision prevailed, but the victory felt hollow. The incident left her questioning Sam's motives and her own judgment. That night, she lay awake, the stars obscured by a rare cloud cover, reflecting the turmoil in her mind. The following day brought a new challenge. Amir approached Laura with troubling news. Equipment had gone missing during the night, nothing irreplaceable but enough to disrupt their workflow and raise concerns about security. Laura addressed the team, her tone firm. This dig is based on trust and respect. If anyone has concerns or disagreements, I expect you to come to me directly. We can't afford distractions. We are here to work together, not against each other. Her speech seemed to rally the team, but Laura noticed Sam's reticence. His aloofness grew over the following days, his contributions minimal. The rift between them widened, with Laura feeling increasingly isolated in her leadership. As the dig continued, new findings kept the team busy, but the undercurrents of rivalry and mistrust persisted. Laura knew she had to address the situation with Sam directly. They needed to clear the air, for both their sakes and the project's success. Under the stark expanse of the night sky, she found Sam alone, looking out over the darkened desert. Sam, we need to talk. Whatever is going on, we need to sort it out now. Sam turned to face her, the starlight casting shadows across his face. You're right, Laura. It's time we put our cards on the table. It's about the future of this dig, and perhaps, our careers. As the cool night air enveloped them, Laura prepared herself for a conversation that might well determine the fate of their expedition. What Sam revealed next would test her convictions and their fragile alliance to the core. Chapter 4: Hieroglyphs of Love. In the dim glow of the early morning, before the desert sun claimed its dominance, Laura Diggs approached the newly uncovered chamber with a sense of reverence. The walls of this deeper, more secluded part of the tomb were covered with hieroglyphs that seemed to pulse with the lifeblood of ancient stories. Today, she would begin the painstaking process of translation, hoping to unlock the narratives entombed within these walls. Accompanied by Dr. Hani Mahmoud, an esteemed Egyptologist, Laura started documenting the hieroglyphs. Dr. Mahmoud's expertise was invaluable, his eyes lighting up with each symbol they uncovered. Look here, Dr. Mahmoud pointed to a series of intricate carvings, his voice a whisper of excitement. These are not just funerary texts. They tell a story, a love story, it seems. Laura leaned closer, her flashlight casting a steady beam on the glyphs. The images showed a pharaoh and a figure that appeared neither royal nor divine, a commoner, perhaps, or a consort unrecorded in the annals of history. This is extraordinary, Laura murmured. A pharaoh's love for a commoner isn't a theme we see often in known Egyptian lore. This could be a groundbreaking discovery. As the day unfolded, Laura and Dr. Mahmoud worked tirelessly, translating each glyph and piecing together the narrative. The story that emerged was poignant. A pharaoh, struck by the beauty and wisdom of a village woman, defied convention to elevate her to a position of power beside him. Their love, marked by both passion and strife, seemed to echo through the centuries. Meanwhile, Sam Carter's behavior had become increasingly distant since their last confrontation. Observing him from a distance, Laura could not help but feel a pang of regret for the friction between them. However, her focus remained on the translations, a story of love that transcended time, reminding her why she had pursued archaeology in the first place, to uncover the human elements beneath the stone and sand. By late afternoon, a significant portion of the chamber's story had been revealed. Laura sat back on her heels, her body aching from hours of crouching and her mind buzzing with the implications of their findings. This pharaoh's name was Menkaure, Dr. Mahmoud announced, tracing his fingers over the carved symbols. And the woman, she is called Merit. Their tale is one of union and division, a reflection of the very duality of life and death that pervades ancient Egyptian belief. The narrative seemed almost too poignant, too reflective of her own tangled situation with Sam. Laura couldn't help but draw parallels between the pharaoh's unorthodox choices and her own career, defying expectations, pursuing the unconventional, risking disapproval for the sake of passion. As they prepared to leave the chamber for the day, Laura's gaze fell on a particular set of hieroglyphs that depicted Mancor and Merit, hands touching in a symbol of equality and partnership. She photographed it, the image etching itself both in her camera and her heart. Back at the camp, Laura uploaded the day's photos and notes, her tent filled with the hum of generators and the low murmur of her team outside. Dinner was a subdued affair, the excitement of the dig tempered by the undercurrents of tension and fatigue. Post-dinner, as the camp settled for the night, Laura took a walk under the starlit sky, needing space to think. She found herself at the edge of the camp, overlooking the vast, undulating desert. The quiet of the night was a balm to her overstimulated mind. Footsteps behind her announced Sam's presence before she saw him. She tensed, unsure of his intentions. "May I join you?" Sam's voice was low, almost hesitant. Laura nodded without turning. "Of course." They stood in silence for a few moments, the vastness of the desert making their recent conflicts seem trivial. "I read your preliminary report on the chamber," Sam finally said. "Mancor and Merit's story, it's incredible." "It is," Laura agreed, her voice soft. "It's a reminder of why we do what we do. Why we dig and dust and sweat. For these stories. For these truths." Sam sighed, a sound of concession. "I've been thinking about our disagreements, Laura. Maybe there's a middle ground for us, a way to work together without stepping on each other's toes." Laura turned to look at him, his features half lit by the moon. "I'd like that," she said genuinely. "I think Mancor and Merit would approve of us finding a way to bridge our divides." Sam chuckled, the sound mingling with the night breeze. "Then let's start tomorrow." "New day, new approach?" "Agreed," Laura replied, a weight lifting from her shoulders. As they walked back to camp together, the story of Mancor and Merit lingered in Laura's mind, a beacon of hope that even in the ancient world, love and partnership could find a way. And perhaps, just perhaps, it could guide her and Sam to navigate their present challenges with a little more grace and a lot more understanding. Chapter 5: Under the Desert Stars. After reconciling with Sam, Laura felt a renewed sense of purpose and camaraderie envelop the camp. Their breakthrough in translating the story of Mancor and Merit not only deepened the team's appreciation for the site but also seemed to soften the harsh edges of the desert landscape with its tale of ancient love and power. As the dig progressed, evenings at the camp became a time for sharing and reflection. Laura and Sam, now working seamlessly together, decided to organize a night of storytelling under the desert stars, hoping to strengthen the bonds among the team members. Each person would share a story from their own culture or personal experience related to archaeology or ancient myths. The team gathered around a crackling fire, the flames casting flickering shadows on their faces. The desert night was cool, a stark contrast to the scorching days, and the sky was a canvas of inky blackness dotted with stars. The mood was light, expectant, as they settled around the fire with hot drinks and blankets draped over their shoulders. Sam volunteered to go first. "I'll share a legend from my hometown in Ireland," he began, his voice weaving through the crackle of the fire. "It's about a warrior who falls in love with a selkie, a seal that can shed its skin to become human. But their love is fraught with challenges, as selkies are bound to the sea." As Sam recounted the tale, Laura observed the team's reactions. Their expressions of curiosity and engagement reminded her of the universal power of storytelling to connect and captivate. When it was Laura's turn, she chose to share a personal story. "I want to tell you about the first time I ever felt the call to be an archeologist," she said, her voice soft but clear. "I was 7, and my grandmother showed me an old, tarnished coin she'd found in her garden. It wasn't worth much, but she spun a tale of lost empires and the journeys of this little coin through time and space. That story, that coin, made me realize that every artifact is a narrative waiting to be told." The team listened, drawn into Laura's story, connecting with her childhood wonder and the profound simplicity of her discovery. As the night deepened, others shared their stories. Amir spoke of Jinn in the desert, Hani discussed the Book of the Dead, and another team member, Elena, recounted a Slavic myth about the love between the sun and the moon. Each story, each voice added layers to the fabric of their shared experience, weaving a tapestry rich with the threads of diverse histories and personal journeys. Later, as the fire dwindled to glowing embers, Laura found herself sitting slightly apart, gazing at the stars. Sam joined her, handing her a fresh cup of tea. "It's amazing, isn't it?" he said, gesturing to the heavens. "How small these stories, and even our own conflicts seem under such a vast sky." Laura nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "It puts things into perspective." "Tonight was a good idea, Sam. It reminded us of why we're here, not just for the artifacts, but for the stories they tell, the connections they forge." Sam smiled, his earlier reservation seemingly dissolved in the shared warmth of the night. "It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day. Tonight was a reminder of the bigger picture." They sat in silence for a while, comfortable in each other's company, until Laura spoke again. "Sam, about the other day." He turned to her, his expression open. "No need, Laura. Let's look forward, not back. We've got a lot left to uncover, and I'm glad we're doing it together." Laura felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the fire. "Me too, Sam. And tomorrow, we start on the inner chamber. Who knows what stories await us there?" The night ended with the team dispersing to their tents, the sky slowly shifting as dawn approached. In her tent, Laura reflected on the evening. The stories shared under the desert stars had rekindled a sense of unity and purpose. She fell asleep to the sound of the wind whispering through the camp, carrying with it echoes of ancient tales and the promise of new discoveries. Chapter 6: Secrets Revealed. The morning after their night of shared stories, the camp awoke to a palpable sense of camaraderie, energized by the connections forged under the desert stars. Today, they would open the inner chamber, which Laura and Sam hoped would yield further insights into the life and reign of Pharaoh Menkaure and his consort Merit. After a quick breakfast, the team assembled at the entrance to the deeper chamber. The air was thick with anticipation as Laura and Sam, now more partners than rivals, led the way. The heavy stone door to the inner chamber had already been gently pried open, revealing a dark passageway that beckoned with whispers of ancient secrets. As they entered, their torches sliced through the darkness, illuminating walls adorned with vibrant frescoes that seemed almost alive under the flickering light. The chamber was larger than they had anticipated, with the ceiling arching high above and the air cool and musty with the scent of undisturbed ages. Laura's heart raced as her light fell upon a large bas-relief depicting Menkaure and Merit, much like the ones they had seen before, but even more detailed and intimate. This artwork showed them not as pharaoh and consort, but seemingly as equals, sharing a tender moment over what appeared to be a scroll or plan. "Look at this," Sam said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's as if they were partners, not only in marriage, but in governance." Laura nodded, deeply moved. "It's rewriting what we thought we knew about this period. Menkaure's reign might have been more progressive than we ever imagined." As the team spread out to document the various artifacts and inscriptions, Elena, a junior archaeologist, called out from a far corner of the chamber. "Dr. Diggs, you need to see this." Laura and Sam hurried over to find Elena standing before a small alcove that had been hidden behind a fallen piece of stone. Inside, there were several scrolls and what appeared to be personal items, jewelry, a dagger, and a small statue. "These could be personal items of Merit," Elena suggested, her hands trembling with excitement. "The scrolls look like they might be diaries or records." The discovery was extraordinary. Personal writings from that era were rare, and these could provide unprecedented insights into Merit's life and her influence on Menkaure. Carefully, the team extracted the scrolls, which were remarkably well preserved, and began the delicate process of unrolling them. Sam, who had some expertise in ancient languages, took the lead in translating the scrolls. As he worked, his excitement grew palpable. These are indeed diaries, or more accurately, records of Merritt's thoughts and activities during her time in the palace, he explained. It's incredible. She writes about court politics, her ideas for administrative reforms, even her personal feelings about Menkor. The scrolls revealed that Merritt had been a profound influence on Menkor, advising him on matters of state and public welfare. Her writings showed a deep love for her people and a strong desire to see them prosper. She was far more than just a consort, she was a co-ruler in all but name. As the team absorbed the gravity of the discovery, Laura felt a profound connection to Merritt. Here was a woman who had navigated the complexities of power and love, leaving a legacy that had almost been forgotten. This changes everything, Laura said to the team. Merritt was not just a figure in the shadow of Menkor. She was a pivotal leader herself. We need to ensure her story is told correctly. The rest of the day was spent cataloging the artifacts and discussing the implications of their findings. The atmosphere in the camp was electric with the thrill of discovery and the satisfaction of scholarly pursuit. That evening, as Laura sat outside her tent, gazing at the stars, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The rivalry with Sam had evolved into a dynamic partnership, and together, they had uncovered a story that would challenge historical narratives. Sam joined her, sitting in companionable silence before speaking. Today was a good day, Laura. It was, Laura agreed, smiling. And there are many more to come. We're not just digging up artifacts, we're uncovering lives. We're giving voice to those who have been silent for millennia. Under the desert stars, with the whispers of the past all around them, Laura and Sam looked forward to the days ahead. They had started as rivals, but they were now united in their quest to bring the truth about Menkor and Merritt to light, reshaping their understanding of history one discovery at a time. Chapter 7: The Test of Trust. After the discovery of Merritt's diaries, the dynamics at the camp shifted profoundly. The whole team was invigorated by the revelations, but as the leader of the excavation, Laura felt an added responsibility. These were not just historical artifacts, they were the intimate thoughts and official records of a woman who had reshaped her part of the world in ways they were only beginning to understand. Laura and Sam discussed the implications of their findings late into the night, planning how to proceed with both the excavation and the eventual publication of their results. Their newfound partnership was strengthened by mutual respect and a shared excitement about their discovery, yet Laura felt an undercurrent of unease. The weight of their discovery was enormous, and she knew that how they handled the coming days would define their careers and the legacy of the dig. One morning, a few days after the discovery, Laura was approached by Amir, who appeared unusually hesitant. "Laura, can I speak with you in private?" he asked, glancing around to ensure no one else was within earshot. "Of course, Amir. What's on your mind?" Laura responded, feeling a flicker of concern at his serious tone. "It's about the scrolls, and Sam," Amir began, his voice low. "I've noticed him taking a lot of calls lately, more than usual. And sometimes, I see him working on the scrolls alone at night. I'm worried he might be planning to use our findings to his advantage somehow." Laura's heart sank. She had hoped that Sam's earlier behavior was behind them, but Amir's words reignited her earlier doubts about Sam's intentions. She thanked Amir for bringing this to her attention and assured him she would handle it. Determined to get to the bottom of the issue, Laura decided to confront Sam directly. That evening, she found him in the lab tent, poring over one of the scrolls. The tent was quiet, the only light coming from the lamp above Sam's workstation. "Sam, we need to talk," Laura said, her tone firm yet fair. Sam looked up, surprise registering on his face. "Sure, Laura. What's up?" "It's about the scrolls." Amir mentioned you've been spending a lot of time here at night. And he's seen you on the phone a lot. I just want to make sure we're still on the same page about how we handle these findings, Laura explained, trying to keep her voice even. Sam's expression shifted to one of frustration. Laura, I'm just as committed to this project as you are. Yes, I've been making calls to experts who might help us understand the scrolls better. And I've been studying them at night because I believe we're onto something huge here. I'm not trying to go behind your back. Laura listened, her initial suspicion warring with her desire to trust Sam. She took a deep breath, choosing her next words carefully. I believe you, Sam. But we need transparency. This project is bigger than any one of us. If we're going to continue working together, I need to know that I can trust you. Sam nodded, his expression earnest. You can, Laura. I apologize if I gave you any reason to doubt. Let's make a pact to keep everything in the open from now on. Full transparency. Agreed? Agreed, Laura replied, relieved yet still cautious. They shook hands, a gesture that sealed their renewed commitment to mutual trust and to the project. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity as the team worked to catalog and analyze every artifact and inscription from the inner chamber. The atmosphere in the camp was one of collective purpose, and Laura felt a cautious optimism about the direction of their work. However, the true test of trust came when a prestigious archaeological journal expressed interest in publishing their findings. The editor requested an exclusive interview with Laura and Sam, a chance to highlight their work before the full academic paper was ready. As they prepared for the interview, Laura and Sam discussed how to present their discovery. It was crucial that they gave Merritt the acknowledgement she deserved, not just as a historical figure, but as a co-ruler whose influence had been undervalued. During the interview, Laura watched Sam carefully, looking for any sign that he might be reverting to his old ways. However, Sam surprised her by emphasizing their collaborative efforts and Merritt's significant role in governance and policy during Mancor's reign. Their united front during the interview not only strengthened their findings' credibility but also reinforced their partnership. Laura felt a profound relief and a growing confidence that they could trust each other to honor the story of Mancor and Merritt without letting personal ambitions get in the way. As they walked back to the camp under the stars after the interview, Laura felt that the trust between her and Sam had not only been tested but had emerged stronger. It was a reassuring conclusion to a day that had marked a significant milestone in both their careers and the legacy of their extraordinary discovery. Chapter 8: The Sandstorm. The days following the interview were abuzz with a sense of achievement and anticipation. Laura and Sam's collaborative spirit had indeed solidified, and the team was motivated by the public interest in their discovery. However, as often happens in the desert, the calm was merely a precursor to the storm. Early one morning, while the team was still savoring their recent successes, dark clouds began to gather over the horizon, an unusual sight in the typically clear desert sky. The wind picked up, carrying whispers of an approaching sandstorm. Laura, experienced enough in desert conditions, recognized the signs immediately. We need to secure the site and prepare for a storm, she announced to the team during breakfast. The atmosphere shifted from relaxed to urgent as everyone sprang into action, battening down equipment, covering the excavation sites, and securing loose items around the camp. As the wind held around them, Laura found herself standing with Sam, watching the team work with precision and urgency. These storms can be brutal, she shouted over the wind. But I know we can handle it if we stick together. Sam nodded, his face set with determination. Let's make sure everyone stays safe. That's the priority. The storm hit with full force later that day. Visibility dropped to near zero as sand whipped through the camp, the fine grains stinging any exposed skin. The team huddled in the main tent, which had been reinforced to withstand such conditions. Outside, the roar of the wind was like the howl of some great beast, and the tent shuddered under the assault. Inside the tent, amid the noise and chaos, Laura conducted a roll call, ensuring all team members were accounted for. Her leadership shone through as she reassured her team, her voice calm and steady despite the storm raging around them. As the hours passed, the intensity of the storm did not wane. Concerns grew not just for their personal safety but for what damage might be done to the excavation site and the artifacts they had unearthed. Sam stayed close to Laura, both taking turns to check on the structural integrity of the tent and to keep everyone's spirits up. During a particularly fierce gust, a section of the tent's sidewall began to tear, letting in a torrent of sand. Laura, Sam, and two other team members quickly worked to secure it, their efforts a battle against the relentless force of nature. Amid the chaos, Laura caught Sam's eye, her gaze filled with a mix of gratitude and concern. Once the tear was secured, they returned to the center of the tent, checking again on their team. "We're okay," Laura reassured them, though her own heart pounded with the adrenaline of the moment. "We just need to wait it out. It can't last forever." The storm continued for several more hours, the daylight outside masked by the swirling sands. In the enforced closeness of the tent, team members shared stories to pass the time, their voices a counterpoint to the storm's fury. Laura listened, participating occasionally, but her thoughts were on the chamber they had left buried under protective covers. She hoped fervently that their precautions had been enough. Finally, as evening approached, the winds began to die down, the sand settling back onto the ground. The team emerged from the tent cautiously, squinting against the still harsh air, to assess the damage. The camp was a mess, equipment strewn about, some of the smaller tents damaged. But the main tent had held, and, most importantly, all team members were safe. Laura felt a surge of relief mixed with pride. They had weathered the storm together, their preparation and unity had seen them through. Sam came to stand beside her as they looked out over the site. "Tomorrow, we assess," he said. "But for tonight, we should be thankful. It could have been much worse." Laura nodded, feeling the weight of the day settling on her shoulders. "Thanks, Sam," she said softly. "For everything." As the team began the cleanup, Laura's thoughts turned to the scrolls and artifacts in the inner chamber. She hoped that their protective measures had been sufficient to shield the precious history they were guardians of. The test of the storm was not just of their physical endurance and preparedness, but of their resolve to protect and preserve the legacy they had uncovered. That night, after a meal of whatever was easiest to prepare, the team sat together, not just as colleagues, but as companions who had shared in an ordeal that had brought them closer. Laura looked around at each face, marked by fatigue but resilient, and she felt a profound connection to this group, united by their shared commitment to unearth history, no matter what challenges they faced. Chapter 9: The Treasure. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the horizon after the storm, the camp was already bustling with activity. Despite the exhaustion from the previous day's ordeal, Laura and her team were eager to assess the damage at the excavation site and ensure the safety of their groundbreaking discovery. With a quick breakfast consumed, Laura rallied her team for the task ahead. "Let's focus on securing the site first. We need to make sure everything is intact before we continue any further excavations," she instructed, her voice firm yet encouraging. The team split into groups, some tasked with clearing the sand and debris that had invaded the camp, others directed to carefully uncover and check the main excavation site where the inner chamber and its invaluable scrolls were located. Laura, accompanied by Sam and a few key team members, headed straight for the chamber. As they removed the protective covers and sandbags, Laura held her breath, hoping that their efforts had been enough to protect the delicate artifacts within. Her heart leaped as the chamber came into view, largely undisturbed by the storm. The scrolls and other items appeared untouched, a testament to the team's careful preparation. "Looks like everything's intact," Sam confirmed, examining the area with a trained eye. He looked over at Laura with a relieved smile. "We did well." Laura nodded, her relief palpable. Let's do a thorough check of everything. I don't want to miss any potential damage. As the team worked meticulously through the morning, it became clear that not only had their initial discovery survived, but the storm had also unearthed a previously hidden lower section of the chamber wall. What initially seemed like a small cavity below one of the frescoes caught Laura's attention. "Sam, look at this," she called out, gesturing him over. As both knelt down beside the cavity, Laura used a brush to gently clear away the sand, revealing a small opening that seemed to lead into yet another hidden compartment. The discovery set their hearts racing. Carefully, they widened the opening enough to allow a better view inside. Using a flashlight, they peered into the dark recess to find an array of objects that glittered back at them, golden lapis lazuli glinting in the beam of the light. "This looks like a treasure trove," Sam exclaimed, his voice a mix of excitement and awe. Laura's mind raced with the implications of their find. "We need to document this first before removing anything. Let's get the cameras and the rest of the team." As the full extent of the hidden compartment was revealed, they found it contained not just jewelry but also several well-preserved statuettes and a collection of sealed pottery. Each item was meticulously extracted, documented, and carefully transported to the lab tent for further examination. The artifacts were not just treasures in terms of their material value, but also in their historical significance. Among the items was a small golden statuette of a woman holding a scroll, which Laura immediately connected with Merit. This could be a depiction of Merit herself, she speculated, her voice tinged with reverence. Perhaps a personal item to accompany her in the afterlife. As the day progressed, the excitement at the site was palpable. The team worked with renewed vigor, motivated by the significance of their find. Laura took a moment to step back and watch her team, feeling a deep sense of pride and accomplishment. They had faced down a sandstorm and emerged not only unscathed but with a discovery that would change the understanding of the period. That evening, as the desert sky turned to hues of deep purple and orange, Laura organized a small celebration at the camp. The team gathered around the fire, much like they had done a few nights ago, but this time the mood was lighter, filled with the joy of their success. Laura addressed the group, her words heartfelt. "Today, we didn't just find treasures of gold and statuary. We uncovered further proof of the incredible civilization that once thrived here. This is why we do what we do. Each artifact tells a story, and each story helps us understand our past a little better." The team toasted to their success, the air filled with laughter and the clinking of cups. As the fire crackled, Laura caught Sam's eye across the flames. He nodded at her, a smile of genuine respect and partnership on his face. That night, Laura lay in her tent, the events of the day replaying in her mind. She felt a deep connection to Merit and her time, brought closer to the ancient queen by the treasures they had shared. The excitement of the discovery was thrilling, but more so was the realization that they were bringing Merit's story and her contributions back into the light, honoring her legacy in a way she had never been before. Chapter 10: Future Unwritten. In the weeks that followed the discovery of the treasure trove, the camp was alive with a mix of scholarly excitement and meticulous conservation efforts. Each artifact brought into the light was more than just a relic of the past, it was a piece of a larger puzzle, revealing the life and influence of Merit, a woman who had shaped the destiny of a kingdom from the shadows. As the end of the expedition drew near, Laura began to prepare for the return to her university in the United States, where the real work of analysis and publication would begin. The treasure and scrolls needed to be carefully preserved and catalogued, a task that would require months, if not years, of dedicated academic research. One clear, cool morning, Laura walked the perimeter of the site with Sam, both taking in the vastness of the desert and the depth of history beneath their feet. They had come to discuss the future, not just of the artifacts, but of their own careers and the impact of their work. "Sam, once we get back, there's going to be a lot to manage. The artifacts, the research papers, the presentations," Laura started, her voice tinged with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. I've been thinking about that, Sam replied, looking out over the landscape. This project, it's bigger than either of us expected. It needs a steady hand, and I think we should consider co-directing the research project. What do you think? Laura paused, considering his words. The idea of continuing to work so closely with Sam was appealing, especially after seeing how well they had collaborated under pressure. I like that idea. It would ensure that the project maintains a consistent vision. And it's clear we work well together. Sam smiled, clearly relieved by her response. I was hoping you'd say that. As they continued their walk, they discussed potential academic partnerships and the logistics of transporting and preserving the delicate artifacts. The conversation was full of possibilities, planning for international conferences and joint publications. The future was indeed unwritten, but it was brimming with potential. The next few days were a flurry of activity as the team prepared to leave the site. Laura took one last walk through the inner chamber, her flashlight illuminating the hieroglyphs that had first revealed the story of Merritt and Mancor. She felt a profound connection to this place, a sense of leaving a part of herself behind in the sands. On their last night at the camp, the team gathered around the campfire once more. This time, the mood was bittersweet. They shared stories and memories of the expedition, each person reflecting on how the experience had changed them. Laura addressed the group, her voice steady but emotional. What we've accomplished here will resonate beyond these sands, beyond our careers. We've rediscovered a forgotten queen, brought her story back into the light. I am grateful to each of you for your hard work and dedication. The team clapped, and a few cheers rang out, reflecting the camaraderie and respect they shared. As the fire died down and people started to drift off to their tents, Laura stayed behind, staring into the embers. The stars above were bright, a vast canvas that made her feel both insignificant and immensely powerful. The past few weeks had not only uncovered physical treasures, but had also unearthed a newfound purpose and direction in her own life. Sam joined her, handing her a cup of tea. Not ready to call it a night? He asked softly. Laura shook her head. Just thinking about everything. It's overwhelming. Sam nodded, looking up at the stars. It is. But whatever comes next, I'm glad we're in it together. Laura smiled, feeling the truth of his words. The future was indeed unwritten, and while the path might be uncertain, it was filled with potential. As they sat together, the desert around them whispered with the winds of change, and Laura felt ready to face whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead, guided by the stars and the stories of the past.